consultants. He's an urban planner, a historic preservationist, and a land use consultant. He is
Graziano.
the designer or co-designer of over 24 neighborhood-wide contextual rezonings in New York City, and the co-author of the R2A anti-McMansion zone. Paul Graziano.
Yes. Hi everybody. Everybody can hear me. I'm gonna try to just a lot of great stuff was said today, and the first thing I'm gonna say is we have an anniversary today. Do you know what the anniversary is? It's 3 months to the day that this bill. I'm gonna pull this off because my glasses are fogging up. I'm sorry. Everybody can hear me? No problem?
Yep.
It's been exactly 3 months since Corey Johnson dropped this bombshell on the city of New York. December 16th was the day that Planning Together came out. And in those 3 months, we have seen unbelievable anti-democratic behavior by the speaker, by the council, through their hearings. The mayor has been very anti-democratic for 7 years plus, but that's a different story, since someone mentioned his name. But the one thing I do want to say is this. I'm a planner, and I'm an advocate and an activist, and I've been pushing for the protection of neighborhoods throughout the city for the last 20 plus years. The difference of what has happened over the last 7 years versus what happened in the previous administration was there was at least an attempt in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, to work with communities. There was community-based planning, not on every plan, but on many plans. And I actually rezoned many of those neighborhoods. I was one of the people who designed those rezonings, so I know it happened. The day that Mayor de Blasio came into office, that ended. This bill is it's not a comprehensive planning bill. It's a comprehensive overdevelopment bill. It's a comprehensive real estate housing plan. That's all it is. The whole idea of comprehensive planning is to tie all of the things that make life happen together. This is not what this is doing. When you look at comprehensive planning, I've actually written comprehensive plans for towns in New Jersey and in other places. You give equal weight to all of the issues. You give equal weight to housing and parks and infrastructure and historic preservation and open space and all the things that make a town or a city work. This doesn't do that. It's even in the language of the legislation. The legislation itself states opportunities for housing based on population and, quote, everything else. So when you lump things into 2 categories rather than 10, 12, 20, or 30 categories, that's a red flag right there. I have gone through this legislation with a fine-tooth comb. For all the media folks, I'm happy to forward you my documents, which I think you might want to read. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but one of the key things that came out of this, and it has been brought up by a lot of the other speakers today, is that this does not address the things that it's supposed to address. This whole description that there was, how do I describe it? The way that it's written over and over again in the Planning Together document and in previous things from the de Blasio administration, which this is copying, is that when the contextual zonings happened during the Bloomberg administration, they happened in white, wealthy neighborhoods, and low-income neighborhoods of color only got up zonings. Now, I'm standing here with Renee Hill. I helped Renee rezone 80% of Southeast Queens. There she is. I live in Flushing. My community is 75% Asian American. We rezoned our community. I've worked in all over Queens, all over the city doing this. It just didn't happen that way. Okay? The bigger issue here is that the upzonings that have occurred under the de Blasio administration, and I'll give East New York as a perfect example. The 5 years that it took East New York to happen, which happened against the community's wishes, very much so, the speculative value of the property based on the rezoning went up over 500%. So you have to think, who is this benefiting? Because even if affordable units are being built, when you look at the average, the way that things go up in price over a scale, if the ground value has increased 500%, well, then the affordability overall has gone down, even if some token affordable units have been built. And I think this is the big issue here, is that it's a scam. MIH has not been, it has not worked, it never did, because there is no deep affordability, number one, and it's set up as a real estate program, not as a program to help people.
Exactly.
This is all based, and I want all the press to understand this. This is all based on a report that came out 10 years ago by the current deputy mayor, Vicky Bean. This report stated, this is where the statistics came from, that neighborhoods of color were upzoned and white wealthy neighborhoods were taken care of. This report, I read the report, 80% of her data is wrong. She has used this report to justify upzonings for the last 7 years, very unfair upzonings for the last 7 years, and this is now the core pillar of planning together. This is the core pillar. So this is very important for everybody to understand, that you've got this administration running this phony agenda, and now you have planning together looking to lock it in 10-year cycles in perpetuity. This is extremely dangerous, and frankly, the deputy mayor should be investigated for this. And I say that in all seriousness because she falsified her data at the NYU Furman Center, which she ran, and she was the co-author of this report. She falsified her data. She then conveyed that into the position of Commissioner of the Housing Preservation and Development under de Blasio, and then became deputy mayor. Using this data and these fake arguments to justify these extremely damaging rezonings that have happened over the last 7 years, and this horrendous bill, which will lock it in and remove the few members who have fought against this over the last few years. Like with Industry City, with Carlos, for example, where he did the right thing at the end, okay? Or even in my neck of the woods, where Peter Koo did a similar thing, not with the West Flushing rezoning, but with another one, where Corey Johnson tried to get him to vote at the Land Use Committee, and they pressured him so hard, and at the end of the day, he literally, and if you know Peter Koo, he's a very mild-mannered human being, started screaming at Corey Johnson, telling him, I will not go against my constituents. I won't do this. And they pulled the ULURP 10 minutes before the vote because of that. So you have a few people who have at least something of a backbone, but the fact is, this will take away member deference. It will cook and bake these upzonings every 10 years in every community board, whether you're the dense Upper East Side or the lowest density areas in Queens or Staten Island or Brooklyn or even the Bronx. It's going to be a perpetual development machine. We have to have our communities making those decisions. Every single elected official should be absolutely raked over the coals. And frankly, I also know for a fact that at least half of the people who signed on as co-sponsors never even read the legislation. And that's appalling, and many of these people are running for other seats. So with all of that in mind, I've said enough. I'm going to turn this back to Alicia. Thank you so much for letting me speak. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
And please sign our petition.
Yeah, there is a petition online that Paul sent around, and that quite a number of people, right?
Over 3,000.
Over 3,000 people involved in that petition. Now,